Welcome to today's Live with Marketers, Growing an Active Community for Your Brand. I am Megan Golden and I lead content and social here at LinkedIn. Before we dive in, let's go through a few housekeeping items. First, we'll be sending out the full recording of this episode along with other resources directly afterwards, so don't feel like you need to take a bunch of notes. 2, we're going to be doing a live Q&A. We'll hold all the questions towards the end, but if you find a portion of the episode where you want to double click, go ahead and submit that answer then, and we'll make sure to answer as many questions towards the end. And lastly, we've added several additional resources within the On24 console for you to take advantage of, one of which is a piece of content from HootSuite that's all about how to take advantage of LinkedIn pages. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Like I said, today is all about growing an active community for your brand. I would assume that most of us are getting back from our Thanksgiving holiday, where you've spent time with your community, right? You're sitting at a table with family and friends, you're sharing stories, you're laughing, you're maybe crying. This is a community, right? It may be one of the many communities that you're a part of. And this community may have been fostered over decades, or it might be brand new. But what remains the same is that what's shaped these communities is this notion of togetherness, of camaraderie, and that we spent time together to really understand each other, gain perspective and context. And as a result, we have these shared experiences, these shared attitudes and goals. And this can be applied directly to brands, right, in terms of the communities that they're fostering, and the powerful impact that communities can have on brands. Which, luckily for you guys who have tuned in today, we have some really stellar guests that are going to talk through the communities that they've built, the tactics and tools they've used to do so, and the value they're seeing. So let's dive in and meet our guests. First of all, we have Penny Wilson, the CMO at HootSuite, who has more than 30 years experience, international experience, growing and scaling businesses of all sizes. Thank you for being here all the way from Vancouver, BC.
My pleasure.
Tomer Cohen is with us. He is the head of product to our LinkedIn marketing solutions, which is, I'm sure, a lot of what you guys as marketers on the show today who are tuning in are leveraging to meet your business objectives. And Tomer, thank you for being here from just a few floors up.
It's great to be here.
Now, Penny, one of the things we have, it's a ritual at LinkedIn when we introduce ourselves, is we try to share something that's not on your LinkedIn profile. So Penny, what's not on your LinkedIn profile?
Well, that's a good question. So there's a few things, but I guess the most current is the thing that keeps me up at night, which is my brand new 6-month-old puppy. He's a golden doodle named Chumley. And he's only 6 months, but he's almost the size of a small bear. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to
She showed me a picture before this, and it is true. It is a large Muppet. Where did the name Chumley come from?
Actually, my husband named him Chumley, and his official name is Chummy Chumley, and that goes way back.
Tomer, what about you? I know you probably have been asked this a million times being a LinkedIn employee, but what is something that's not on your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, one of my most profound experiences not on my profile has been backpacking for almost 1.5 years across the world, from Central America, South America to Asia and Europe.
It's amazing. Highs or lows?
Lots of highs, lots of lows.
Yeah.
It's not it's like backpacking. It has this kind of roller coaster.
Literally high and lows.
Yeah, literally
like
mountains and and hills. But truly an amazing way to actually meet different communities across the world.
That's awesome. I do have a life goal to do the same. So great for the inspiration. Now, to kick things off, often we like to baseline the topic, right, and get an understanding of where we're really coming from. So Penny and Tomer, what does community mean to you in terms of what it does for your brand?
Yeah, I think community has really been paramount to the HootSuite brand, and it's been a real key to our success. So our purpose at HootSuite is to champion the power of human connection, and that's what communities are all about. And we believe that people are at the heart of communities, organizations, and brands, and those people have a voice, and the whole opportunity is to give them that voice.
I love that.
For us, it's really, when you join LinkedIn, you're joining a community.
Right.
We want to talk about it as like you're joining your professional community in the world, and it could be across geos, across segments. What we believe in is the community is kind of the outcome. It's a sense of belonging you get from finding people who are in many ways like-minded, whether it's interest or stages in the career and so on. Where we feel it's pretty phenomenal for brands across is their communities tends to be your secret superpower. And it's kind of like it's the unsung hero a little bit. It's where you can actually have complete success in your business. So we tend to think of brands as the leaders of those organizations. Elon Musk for Tesla, Bill Gates for Microsoft, and so on. But what's really determines the success of a brand is how strong their communities are.
Yep.
And by communities, I mean your buyer community, your partner community, your employee community, your talent outside. And that, in many ways, shapes your success going forward.
Right. So it's like, community is at the core of a company. It's a superhero, it's a superpower, but it's also multifaceted because a brand can have several types of communities on a micro level. Penny, what types of communities does HootSuite have, and where are you focusing your investment?
So we have a number of different communities. We have our customer communities, so they come in as our ambassador program, or we have some vertical communities in our financial services sector, in our government sector, in our higher ed community. We have a student community. So those are all of our customer communities. We have employee communities, HootSuite Life. We have candidate communities. Our employees use our content as advocacy communities of their own. And then we have thought leadership communities. So we've been developing a strong customer advisory board network. We have some communities on Ryan has his own community on LinkedIn. He has a very large thought leadership community, so that's another good example of thought leadership. And they're all really important elements to our business, and we continue to invest in all of them. I think really looking to get that engagement and make sure that we're continuing to add value. Those are the important things for us.
Highly encourage folks to follow Ryan Holmes on LinkedIn, CEO of HootSuite.
Okay, note to self. But it seems like with so many communities, you're using this opportunity to connect with people in different ways, in different audiences, sort of in segments, right?
Yes.
So what's the business impact when brands prioritize the growth and management of these communities?
It could be disproportionate. It could be amazing. And I think it's to the extent of how much you take it forward. So when you think about, Peg was talking about like the ambassador program, you can think about your communities are ambassadors of your brand. And what that means is that they're not just helping you build better products and services, they actually help carry your voice across, millions of people, potentially even tens of millions if you're kind of looking for LinkedIn. And if you do it well, it could be disproportionate. So for example, if you think about your talent as a community, both internally and externally, and you think about helping that talent, whether it's in design or engineering, giving back to the community, you will be so, soon known as a great place to work and learn. And you can hire the best of the best because the best want to work where the best tools and best engineering has been developed. So now you have an edge because the best people want to work at your company, the best engineers, the best designer. That's one example. On the buyer side, if you build a great community of buyers that can help each other be successful on your products. And a lot of the products we build, we can offer a lot of guidance and so on, but there's nothing like somebody else who's exactly kind of, at your stage, trying to do what you're trying to do, helping you do what you're trying to accomplish. So it can really carry on your brand in a pretty amazing way.
And buyers want to hear from other buyers almost more than they want to hear from the brand, and that kind of exchange can happen in these communities that we foster.
Totally, because everybody has their unique use case. So by extending it to thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, you're getting all those use cases succeeded.
So clearly there's proven impact to a business for fostering an active community, but what's in it for the member? What's the potential value members can get from a brand's community?
Yeah, so I think there's a ton of value, and that's important that a brand offers that value to their community. But they get early access to information, they get early access to events, they get peer-to-peer opportunity to network with people around the globe. They get to even position their own personal brand or their own company's brand. The importance of a community is really that it becomes something that's bigger than themselves, and that's why they want to be part of it, because they're constantly learning. So I think there's lots of benefits for members. And then, of course, there's lots of benefits for brands too. We get to listen to the voice of our customer. We get to hear what their challenges are, what their opportunities are. They get to influence our product in a way. We get to ask questions. We get that one-to-one communication opportunity that is so unique.
And I'm thinking of the marketer or just any professional working remotely, having the access to those communities digitally are just so profound. Tomer, what about you?
Yeah, so I love that. I think in many ways that bi-sided marketplace that Penny was kind of describing is how we thought about the products. I mean, we launched our Pages experience 2 weeks ago, and this is a product we've had for years. We have 30 million business pages on LinkedIn, but we wanted to remake it, focusing on the community side, focusing on that marketplace between members and brands. And what you find is that there is actually a very strong kind of connecting tissue between them, because ultimately they're trying to achieve the similar thing. So we kind of had this like a notion of a pyramid, an hierarchy of needs.
Okay.
I think with like the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and the base level is a brand wants to establish their presence. They want to be known, and members want to find great brands. So like I learned that this person bought this product. I want to learn more about the company. So I go and I search it. One of the biggest use cases on LinkedIn is people trying to discover companies.
Right.
So that's like the basic level of like just being there, having a presence and be able to be discovered. The second level is the community side, the engagement side, where a brand wants to build those communities for the reason we just discussed. And for a member, they want to join those communities because now I can get great tips and advice. Now, before I go into interviews, I can learn what's the best tips to work at this company. Before I buy a product, I can learn like what's the best way to buy the product, what's the benefits and the drawbacks of the product. So that becomes something you want to do in a very social way. Brands are ultimately socials. Products are meant to be social. So that's what these communities gives you. Ultimately, at kind of the apex of the pyramid, you get business outcome. And for a brand, they want to hire, they want to market, they want to sell. And for a member, they want to find a job, they want to buy, and they want to also partner or sell as well. So you get those combinations going really well. So if you really think about this pyramid, members and brands get, basically it's a symbiotic relationship at that level.
Yep, and so the baseline is sort of building your presence. Above that is growing your community, and I'm sure content marketing is a huge sort of element of that.
Yeah, because ultimately that's how you engage your audience. Ultimately, you want to drive business outcome.
Yep. So let's talk about tactics. Where does a company even begin to build a community?
That's a good question. So I think you begin by understanding your audience. Know who they are, know what they want, know what they value. I think that's the number one thing that you have to do. And then I think you have to understand how their objectives tie with your business objectives, and make sure that you have the metrics of success for both parties, for the company aligned with those of the community. And then I think that the third thing would be to make sure that you have the good content and people, because you have to be able to engage with the community in an effective way. And once you have content, you have to figure out what kind of content is really important to people. Like, video content is gets quite good engagement. People are inundated with content every day, and so there's only certain things that they're going to want to be fed. And then I think you have to constantly keep your community alive, like inviting new people, asking the people who are part of your community to invite people as well, so that you're constantly keeping it going.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, to think of a community as a living, breathing thing that's not static. It's constant reciprocal engagement. So we have the tactics, then I'm assuming people are asking, well, how do I do it? What are the tools, right? We as in LinkedIn, recently launched Pages, LinkedIn Pages. Tomer, do you want to explain a little bit about the new functionality we released?
Yeah, I'd love to, because we worked really hard on it.
And it's great.
And it's great. and we're going to make it even better. So over the last few quarters, the team has been really hard at work, as I mentioned, reimagining what it means to have a page on LinkedIn, both from an admin standpoint as well as a member interacting with a brand. And we had a big launch 2 weeks ago, and we completely reimagined this entire experience. And then there's a lot of great things in it. So I highly encourage everybody to go and explore it. But there's 3 aspects of it, which I think touches on what Penny was mentioning. There's a notion around how you as a brand can know and grow your audience. and there's a notion around being able to join the conversations that matter and ultimately engaging your people. So I can walk you through a demo if we can get it on the screens. And the knowing and growing is basically the foundation, right? Because if you don't know who you're targeting or talking to, there's no way you can move that audience to a community sense. So knowing and growing is the basic thing. So let's say, for example, I'm a community manager at Ignite, and I have a page on LinkedIn. The first thing I see when I come to my page, as I mentioned, it's brand new. It's completely redesigned. It's streamlined to what you need as an admin. There's a lot of great stuff here. I'm not going to go through them, but it's basically meant for you to do the best things first. So like tapping into your feed and engagement, going over to your notifications, being able to like look at the topics you're interacting with, changing the call to actions to what you want them to be. But the first thing we do usually as marketers and admins is we go to the analytics side. We want to see what's happening. We want to have like a good view, quantitatively about the growth of the page. And you'll see a new experience there, a lot of great stuff there, so please go and explore. But what I want to highlight is our demographics tool. Now, in many ways, we've been offering the power of the LinkedIn graph to your page. So you know exactly which functions, industries, company sizes, seniorities are visiting your page. This is a great way for you to know as a brand, who are the audiences already engaging with you, and do you have a gap? Are you trying to engage, for example, human resources, but it's still smaller to where you want it to be? What we added to it was another layer which makes it completely powerful. Now you can add your own website analytics to it. So now if I'm on Ignite.com, I can, if you go back to the previous slide, I can go back and I can basically see side by side how is my own website versus my page doing. So for example, if I take education, the green bar reflects the visitors are coming from education to my site, and the blue bar represents to my page. You can see we're pretty much strong on both ends. But if I go to human resources, you can see the blue bar, my page is doing relatively okay, not amazing. I can grow it even more. But human resources are not even coming and visiting my site. So if I care about human resources, I have to go and explore that. And you can do that for every facet. So you can do it for seniorities, and you can do it for company sizes and job functions. So it becomes this very powerful tool to build a foundation. So once you get that going, and you know your audience, now you want to ask the next question is about how do I reach them? What's the right way to interact with them? And that's where you want to join the conversations that matter. So in this case, it's really hard for us marketers to find out what's the best content to lead with. You don't want to invent new topics. You want to kind of join what's top of mind already. You want to know what's on top of people's minds so you can actually generate the right content in. So we're going to allow you to do that with a very powerful tool, first of its kind. We call it content suggestions. You can all go to your page right now and click on the second tab. But I'm going to walk through how powerful this tool is. So if I want to, at this point, I want to basically be able to target executives in HR in San Francisco. It's really hard for me to do it anywhere else. But it's really easy and fun to do it on LinkedIn. I'll show you that in seconds. So when you start off, there's a lot of topics being trending right now, right? This is like, it's finding a needle in a haystack in a way, the experience. But I can literally go and start playing with my filters on the left side, and I'm gonna select all LinkedIn members in San Francisco Bay Area, the location side. I'm gonna select the function being HR, and I'm gonna select the seniority being directors and above. So from thousands of topics, I ended up with 4. Which is really powerful. Compensation, remote working, leadership development, and mindfulness. Not only that, you can actually double click into it and you'll get the actual stories that they're interacting with. So you know literally top of mind what's going on right now in stories they read or they might be interested in. So you can click from there, share, and just tap into that audience. So now you basically know who your audience is and you're able to join the conversations that matter to them most. So those are really two key functionalities. The third functionality I want to highlight is something which is very special because we believe at LinkedIn we almost have like a responsibility to help you engage your employees because your employees are already connected to your LinkedIn. On your identity, if you go to Penny's profile on LinkedIn, you'll see she works at HootSuite. And from there, you can click on HootSuite and go to the page of HootSuite on LinkedIn. So there's already a tissue there, a connective tissue, which is working really well. But your ability to activate your employees has not been there yet. And we believe that's probably one of the most powerful yet underutilized powers you have as a brand, being able to activate the number of employees you have. How many employees you have at HootSuite?
1,000.
So that's a small army. At LinkedIn, we have 13,000. That's a slightly larger army. And if you're Accenture and Deloitte, you have hundreds of thousands of people. So that's like becoming this amazing power of brand ambassadors that are actually excited to be part of your brand. So now as an admin, you can go to your mobile experience and desktop. When you click on writing a post, on sharing, you'll get the post dialogue. Let's say in this case, I want to share a company event we did because I want to show the great culture we have. And when I click on next, the next thing will be I'll actually be able to select employees as basically an audience I'm sharing to, which is first of its kind, and we're really excited about it. And when you click post, then you'll be able to go that into your page, to your own feed, and then the employee on the right side, they'll get a notification that their company has posted something. And for the most part, there's great excitement around it. Even to give you a meta point, when we launch pages, the engineers and the marketers who worked on this project were really excited to share it. And they naturally went and share it. So this is a great way for you to engage your entire company to be part of this. And then later, you can go a few minutes later and check the analytics. So in this case, you can see if I'm coming a few minutes later to the post, I can see I reached 5,000 people on LinkedIn. But I can also, for my employee network, I was able to reach 50,000 people. 52,000 people. So basically 10x the reach because of my employee. That's what we're seeing when people are able to leverage the employee pool. So those are kind of three of the experiences we launched: being able to know and grow your audience, then being able to join the conversations that matter to them, and ultimately being able to leverage your amazing employee pool to carry your message across. There's a lot more in this release, so I'm really excited for you guys to check it out, and please send us feedback.
Thanks, Tomer. Some really powerful tools for marketers to take advantage of. I know that our team is having a lot of fun with the content suggestions. So we talked about small armies, medium armies, massive armies. Penny,
peaceful armies.
Yeah, peaceful armies. Let's be true. Penny, how do you make growing a community not just a marketing initiative, but a company-wide initiative?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we use our social team as sort of the center of excellence and the source of best practices, and we work with all sorts of organizations around the company. So if you're on the support team, it might be that you solve customers' problems faster. So then we provide content for the support team to share with customers in order for them to reduce their ticket volume or reduce their time to solve. We work with the sales team who wants to engage with customers and prospects, and all employees, in fact, supplying them with content that they can communicate out to any customer or use as a thought leadership opportunity. And it's really important that we tie what the opportunity of the community is with what their actual KPIs are for that team. So, the recruiting team, that's a pretty easy one. They're tied to how many candidates they bring in and how many candidates are successful, and getting to understand their metrics and making sure that we support them in that way.
With so many, I'm just off my head, Tomer, with so many people within your company that are touching these communities, that are reaching out to these communities, how do you maintain sort of a singular brand message or a level of quality of engagement?
Yeah. So there's a few aspects to it, but I think your question is actually a point. You want to maintain that level of quality.
Yep.
And you want to make sure that you're investing in quality reach, and over time that will actually translate into business outcome. But there's a few tactics for it. In many ways, you want to, again, first of all, by knowing your audience, you're not now just blasting through information.
Right.
You're knowing who you're showing to. You can tailor your message. It's much more interesting. The other part of it is being able to engage back. So looking at it as kind of a great conversation, bi-sided in many ways. And if you can get, Penny mentioned one-to-one conversation, that's really awesome. People feel special.
Right.
So you can be in millions, but you can feel special in that environment. A notion of trust is really important.
Yep.
Building that authentic voice as a brand. So there's a few tactics there, but I think to your point, it starts with you're going to be about quality. You still need quantity. You can't share once a month. You have to share a few times a day, at least once a day. So you want to maintain like this is an active living brand, but at the same time, this is why it takes effort in building that quality community size.
Right, and if you're really investing in understanding your audience, then really every touch point should be memorable.
Totally.
So we've discussed a little bit about the role of content marketing in a community, but what about distribution tactics? So one of the things we talk about a lot at LinkedIn is around organic and paid. So how together should we be using these tactics to drive quality engagement and growth to a brand's community?
Yeah, I can start. I think I do believe it's in many ways when you build your strategy, you have to think about all. I see sometimes marketers would focus on one for a while and then will shift for another, and this is almost like you have to have a leg in both. When you think about your organic presence and your paid presence, I think in many ways the paid side for me comes others. You want to amplify your voice, or you want to use it as a catalyst to start something new in an area where you don't have a presence in. So for example, let's say Ryan Holmes will write a great piece for HootSuite. They can use that piece and amplify it because there's already great engagement. It's more like it's boosting power in a way.
Putting more momentum behind.
Or now they want to tap into an audience that they're not usually tapping into. They launch a new product. You got at Espresso a while back, and there's a whole ad ecosystem there as well. So now they want to go to the paid marketing side of it in the role. Right. So maybe they can actually use it as a catalyst for the paid side, but they don't stop. There's like a 24/7 notion of organic and a 24/7 notion of paid. And the beautiful part, because we're talking about communities today, is that once you get those going, the community will be your earned side.
Right.
Because they'll start talking on your behalf. So you're really getting organic and paid working for you as the foundations, and what you get as a huge bonus is the earned side.
They're sort of like a flywheel for each other.
Totally.
Penny, what about HootSuite in terms of thinking about organic and paid tactics and how they work together?
Yeah, well, I think Tomer kind of told my story, so that's good. I think that obviously at the core of it all, your content has to be good. And with that as a given, I think that organic, we're very lucky that we have somebody like Ryan who can get us reach. We use our employees heavily to get organic reach as well. But in today's world, it gets harder and harder. And so paid becomes very much a reality. And I think that the beauty of paid is really trying to use it to get more targeted at a specific audience.
Yeah.
And that's, a good use of your paid dollars.
Right, and I think a lot of small businesses or just small budgets tend to fear paid and think that they can rely solely on organic, when really a little bit of paid is going to have an exponential impact.
Yeah, and it's test and learn, right? You don't have to
put all your dollars in one bucket. Let's test a little bit and then feel confident with spend.
Yeah. Part of that testing behavior, which I love, because it's exactly right. Because in many ways, your strategy should be kind of a portfolio strategy of supply, and where if you want to go into a crowded space right now, you have to use paid a lot because it's already crowded. People have their millions of followers all over the place, and they have their reach. So you penetrate a lot with a lot of marketing dollars. But sometimes you want to think about areas that hasn't been kind of fully utilized yet, or they're kind of emerging as areas. Because then organic paid will be a small part of it, organic will be a big part of that, but you kind of build your organic muscles.
Yep.
But if you're if you're only relying on paid, you're probably in a way wasting resources.
Yeah.
You have to do both together.
Right. So my team talks to marketers all the time because we market to marketers, and growing a community can be challenging whether you're a small business or you're a large business trying to expand into global markets. So what do you see brands doing wrong? What could we be doing better?
Well, I would say there's two things that I see brands do wrong sometimes. One is self-promotion. So really have to understand that a big part of community is building trust. And so you're trying to build an engagement. You're not trying to sell to them. And then the second one is really not understanding that you really have to put people and dedicate time, not only to build the content, but to actually engage with the community. Because you have an opportunity to, to be transparent with your community and to hear from them, and I think it's important that they know you're listening, and therefore they are you're saying, hey, I listened to you about this, and here's what we're going to do about it. Because if they think you're just on send all the time and you're not on receive, then that will be a failure point for you.
Right.
Could not agree more. I think for everybody wants to talk with somebody else. You don't want to talk with a logo, but you believe that if a logo, speaks in a way which is authentic, there's a person behind it, and there's like Kevin at this company or so on, and that authentic voice is really important to bring out. That's why you do want to invest time. A notion behind not just being on the send. We see a lot of brands right now. When I say brands, I mean both influencers as well as companies.
Right.
They go a lot into the comments. So it's not just about sharing. It's about going into the comments and engaging with people. And you wouldn't imagine the type of engagement you get from people seeing that you're actually responding back. For them, it's like a mind-blowing aspect. Like, oh, you're not just sharing because you need to. You're here because you want to. And you take the time to read the comment and respond. It's like mind-blowing for people.
Yeah.
You're actually a responsive, active brand. There's a live. It's not just a machine.
Right.
In a way, and that's extremely powerful. I think an example of a company who does this well, we see this, is like, for example, Tesla. When they share, they're able with like one post to activate multiple communities at once.
Yeah.
And they all feel in a way special. So they will share about innovation in their products. And then the buyers will like, this is a great car. It's pretty awesome.
Right.
And the employees will be, oh, I worked on this.
Right.
I'm proud to work with this company. And talent outside would see like, this is an awesome place to work. Look at like the cool stuff they're building. And it's one post, but it's in a way highly curated.
Yeah.
It's thoughtful, and they would actually respond back. And I think that is a notion of how you do it, right?
Right. And as a content marketer, I think we're so consumed with just pushing content out, and it's really sort of this volume strategy. But just absorbing this conversation, I'm thinking if we just cut our volume in half and spend the other half of resources going down rabbit holes of engaging with people in our communities on the topics of our content, I think it would just be so much more well worth our time and well worth the members' time within our community.
The other aspect I would add to it is there's things you're doing and you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
There's things you're not doing and you just don't know they're wrong.
Right.
So like one of them is like the employee side. Most folks don't think about their employees as brand ambassadors. So HootSuite is kind of like, in many ways, leading the charge.
Yeah.
But most brands do not think about how I have thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people.
Peaceful army.
Yeah, totally. Then you multiply that by 100 to 20 connections on LinkedIn. You basically can reach millions or tens of millions of people easily.
Yeah, when you do the math, it's crazy.
It is crazy. So not knowing you can activate your employee base is also a mistake that we see happening.
As marketers, we know that we're constantly looking to prove ROI, to gain more budget, to gain further investment in our resources. What should you say to our audience in terms of the metrics they should be focused on to really understand the health and maintenance of their community?
Yeah, I would say you start by understanding this is not an overnight success.
Right.
This is a long-term play. You don't just build a community. Nobody becomes your friend in a day.
Yeah.
You build that trust and consistency with consistency over time. You are interesting most of the time. There's a lot of aspects that people feel like they want to go back to your brand and engage with your content. So just having that long-term view is really critical, because if you're expecting like numbers to kind of go skyrocket immediately, you're either going to be lucky with your first post, which happens.
Yeah.
But ultimately you're going to set yourself up for disappointment.
Right.
So long-term strategy is the best one. Then investing in quality there is ultimately the ones that will drive your business outcome. Because it's not about millions of views, it's about the right views.
Yep.
And being able to kind of drive for that is really important. That will drive you the business outcome. That will give you the ROI you want in the end.
Right. Penny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that you can measure a number of things. I think it's all, as you said, about the quality of your engagement. So it can be about engagement in general or the quality of engagement. We measure something we call memorable customer moments. And those are opportunities where we are engaging with a customer. We've had a very positive outcome. We've either changed a negative to a positive, or we've just had something that's contributed positively to the member of the community. You can also judge against clicks on your content because you can see what's really resonating with people, and you can measure based on growth of a community. So if it's a brand new community, like when we bought AdExpresso, going after the paid media user, that's a new community for HootSuite. So building that community is really important. So there's a number of different ways that I think you can measure.
But it sounds like,
success.
you know, buckle up, it's for the long view, right?
It's
a journey.
Like everything else in life.
Yeah.
So true. So similarly, we as marketers have to justify our spend to leadership, to work hard to get in buy-in for new tactics, new strategies, new tools. How should marketers get internal buy-in from the C-suite, Penny?
Yes, that's another good question. So I think it's important to tie marketing KPIs in general to the overall targets of the organization. So, you know, in the sense of communities, it could be tied to customer retention. It could be tied to customer satisfaction, NPS. It could be tied to product innovation even. There's a number of, or recruiting and, you know, speed to recruit. There's lots of metrics at the C-suite level that if you can tie your activities directly to them, I think that that's an important element.
I completely agree. So we've now reached the point at which we can turn it over to our viewers. I know I've been seeing a ton of questions come through, so thank you for the engagement. Let's kick it off with Shannon from Boston. She asked, what is the risk or the impact to business who underinvest in community growth and engagement? Who wants to take this one?
Well, I can start. I think in many ways, if you think about everything we covered today, you're just, to put this bluntly, you're not doing your job. Like, like as a marketer, like I think most, like the whole idea of building your brand is building your brand community.
Right.
So if you're not doing it, you're just not taking advantage of what could be a superpower. Mm-hmm. So now you're playing, you know, in many ways, I think the best brands have a community around them. Mm-hmm. Whether it's like Apple and their fan base, or LinkedIn, or you know, HootSuite. In many ways, they were kind of unable to rely on them for product innovation, for recruiting. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the leads you're not delivering; you're actually like hurting talent.
Yeah.
You're hurting in a way. You're like you're not boosting employee morale.
It's not just a
You're not helping product innovation. So you're kind of if you think about it just from a lead generation standpoint. Yes, that hurts because you're supposed to also bring leads to the table, but you're hurting all aspects of the business. Mm-hmm. And you might not know it because you haven't thought about the community sense so far.
Yeah.
You thought about audiences.
Yeah.
But really, the audiences that matter to you become communities for you.
Right, and I think that's good to kind of, for marketers, take the blinders off because we're so consumed with just the brand and the adoration that we're trying to build with a brand through a community, but it's much bigger than just what we're doing, right? Yep. It's affecting and impacting waves within the business.
I think it's, you know, it's all about brand love.
Yeah.
And over the years, having been in marketing for a few of them, there's been this tension between performance marketing and brand marketing. And, you know, performance marketing, tying it directly to sales, directly to the leads, directly to the business outcomes has really kind of come up in prominence, and everybody wants to tie everything to it. And I think that the brand side is now becoming an equivalent to the performance side, and the balance between the two are even more important.
Yeah, that's a good call out. Cindy from Denver asks, how do we interact with the LinkedIn page that Tomer was showcasing? In other words, how does a brand sort of adopt a LinkedIn page? How do they get started?
Well, you probably already have a brand, like a page today, because people basically know that they work for your company. If not, you can just go and create one.
Because it's free.
It's free.
Right.
Actually, everything we mentioned today is free.
Right.
Because we do believe in organic. We believe organic is a great way for you to get started and actually build a muscle over time that can boost your pay later. Mm-hmm. So everything we cover today is completely organic, completely free. So if you don't have a page today on LinkedIn, you can actually go and create it really easily. There's like on the top right, there's like a menu, a drop down. Most chances you do have a page today on LinkedIn. You might not have claimed it. Mm-hmm. Because if people work for your brand, the moment they say, I work for company Ignite,
right,
there is kind of like a page created in a way. Mm-hmm. But we're not activating it until you actually claim it, and there's a whole process there. It's pretty easy.
Okay.
And once even if you already have a page, I would highly encourage to kind of start investing in it.
So takeaways are it's super easy and it's free. So
It's free.
best of both worlds. This is a good segue to a question from Arjun in San Francisco. How has LinkedIn helped Hootsuite grow and maintain your community?
Oh, in many, many ways. So first of all, we're very excited to be part of this whole launch of Pages and the notification API, one of the early partners. And I think our customers, we now can offer video through LinkedIn, at mentions through LinkedIn. Like we've improved the whole experience for our customers. So I know that it's two of the things that they've been requesting for the longest time. But as far as how Hootsuite itself, internally, we leverage LinkedIn in multiple ways. So we use Ryan Holmes from a thought leadership perspective. We have a lot of activity to our pages, and so we can see what people are engaging in our content-wise, and we can be responsive to it. We do a lot of recruiting through LinkedIn, and we also use LinkedIn groups for some of our advisory boards, and we just did a big round the world future of social, and a number of those groups we created on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I think if you just round up all the assets of Hootsuite on LinkedIn, not as a partner, as an organic business, from the followers that you guys have on LinkedIn in the hundreds of thousands, to Ryan's followership, to your followership, to the employee scale, it's you're reaching millions of people all the time, which is really exciting.
Amanda in London, which is why I want to get to this one because she's up late, clearly.
Thank you, Amanda.
I heard Penny mention that self-promotion is a no-no, but what if you are a sales-focused small business? Thanks.
Well, I think that you have to learn how to add value. So instead of it just being a sales pitch, demonstrate somehow as to why what the kind of value proposition your product has.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem so pitchy, and you can make it a two-way conversation. So if you're selling a brand new color of lipstick, like have a conversation about what they want out of their lipstick. I'm pulling that out of my hat, but
well, I think too, Amanda, it's all about fostering a community that's going to speak on your behalf so that you don't sound super pitchy. So
yes,
investing in sort of an army of evangelists, right, who are going to tell your story on your behalf so that you're not always sort of pounding your chest promotionally.
Yeah, and like everything, it's a balance, right? So like, if you're not trying to promote yourself, you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
And if you're over promoting yourself, you're probably you're abusing your job.
Right.
So like the balance because just play human beings, right? You want to talk about what you can do and your capabilities. At the same time, you don't want to be obnoxious to people. You want them to be your friends. So being able to balance it and kind of figure out the right combination there is important. And some brands do it well. They talk about the innovation of what they're doing. They actually produce valuable content that comes with it.
Right.
So it doesn't become as much as we have 20% off today, come today, come today, come today, come today.
Right. And I think we sometimes overthink it because, we don't need to just be a marketer. This is a human exchange. We wouldn't walk into a party and talk about ourselves for 20 minutes straight, right? You're trying to find ways to fit in, to find commonalities, to drive conversations. And that's exactly what you're doing as a marketer. Georgia, she asks, and she's not from Georgia, she's from New York. How does the LinkedIn page pull through your company website data? I'm assuming that's for you.
Yeah, so that's, again, one of the capabilities we do it here. We don't pull up anything. It's your data, by the way.
Okay.
What we do is when you put our pixel on your site,
that's right.
A lot of our advertisers already have it. It's literally like a line or two lines of code. When you put our pixel on your site, and you can go to literally now, linkedin.com/marketing solutions or /marketing. Once you pull that in, automatically you'll start seeing your demographic information show up in your page. And this is your data. We don't use it for any purposes. You completely for your own eyes. And it's kind of like basically our version of Google Analytics from a LinkedIn standpoint, kind of the power of the LinkedIn graph for your own brand. So again, very easy to do, and you should start seeing that information flow in as soon as you put those pixels in.
So another question, we are on fire here in a good way. Emmanuel asks, what would be a good number of times a business should be posting on a platform without seeming like a pest? We get this question every time we have a webinar.
Yeah, and when I had my own startup, it was also a question I was very much. I think I would actually, it goes back to test.
Yeah.
You know, I remember like early days, it was like post on Twitter as much as you can, post on Facebook 3 times, and post on LinkedIn twice. We don't have a hidden playbook that we're not sharing. If we did, we would be sharing it for everybody. What I would say is start playing it out. Like start, you know, back to quality over quantity. If you have 4 pieces or 10 pieces which are highest quality, go share them. If you're just trying to share for the sake of sharing, you know, stop a little bit and see if you have something insightful to say. Also, back to the notion around just sharing. Just kind of, in a way, stop from just sharing and also start commenting. People love seeing brands respond. It feels personal.
Right.
We do it all the time, by the way. At like LinkedIn, like, you know, we will respond to members inside. We respond to them on Twitter. Our employees will respond. So if I'll see somebody talking about a question, I said, hey, it's Tomer at LinkedIn here. Here's how you do it. Or like, great question or great feedback. We'll take it to the team. People see that there's people behind a brand. So it's not about there's no best practice that I would kind of recommend as much as like testing it out and just being authentic. Yeah.
Introducing yourself, who you are, what you do.
Totally.
Right, and sort of dialing forward that frequency and dialing that back and seeing at what point engagement starts to fatigue, and then you kind of know your threshold.
And go into the comments.
Yes, go down a rabbit hole. Let's see. My company has no marketing before now. What's the best way to kickstart?
Two ways.
Whoa.
I mean, there's not one way, but
there's multiple ways.
So if there's a knowledge gap, I would actually say there's a lot of great resources out there. Not to self-promote LinkedIn, but there's LinkedIn learning courses. You can go and learn about how to set up marketing channels well. There's a lot of great content with HootSuite produces. There's a lot of great content out there. I would go and start learning because it is a pretty amazing discipline. But there is very basic tactics you can start with. You can start building your page, and you can start sharing. And you can do it across multiple, social media presences. You can use HootSuite to manage them. So you can actually respond back to them. But I would say you start by, it's almost like your first step, putting yourself out there and start building kind of your audiences there.
Tell your story.
And and actually figure out your narrative in your story.
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying, like, what's the value you're going to bring to the
value add, right? And it kind of goes back to that tiered pyramid of like the baseline of just working on your presence, right? Yep. Being known.
I like a saying when basically said there's like really 2 functions for a company, is either building the product or marketing it. Every other function somehow are like adjacent to it. So if you have a product, you are by definition, everything you do is supposed to be marketing it and taking it to market. So at that point, you are doing marketing, but you want to do it in a more strategic way.
Wendy in Seattle, this is a great question. So I struggle with the strategy of using individuals to represent our company or brand on LinkedIn. Should I post as myself or should I post on behalf of the company? What might be different about the 2 strategies?
Yes, it's a great question. I would use HootSuite as an example as well. So I would say you use them all, but you're being thoughtful about them. So your page is your kind of your umbrella in many ways, right? So like Ryan Holmes works at HootSuite. He's the founder of HootSuite. So your page is your umbrella, and you act as your page, and you share. And now you start want to think about like some specific brand champions, in a way, brand celebrities you can start leveraging who are extremely thoughtful. So you can take the CEO or the CMO. But it doesn't have to be those. You can literally find an awesome engineer on your team, and she's great at what she does, and she can write great content. And you want to help her build her follower base. But in a way, you're thinking about your follow base, not just how much, like when Penny was mentioning Ryan Holmes, she sees Ryan's followership as part of HootSuite's followership.
Yep.
And that's the right way to think about it. So I would start with your page, obviously, but I would start looking for great people in your organization who can carry that tone. And it doesn't have to be just talking about the brand. That female engineer, she might be talking about great Objective-C tips.
Right.
That's great. Help her build a followership.
Right.
And then over time, you have your kind of brand celebrities that you're building. And then when you have a big launch, it would be awesome to get them all together to voice at the right time.
Right, and I like how you called out, an engineer versus it doesn't need, the celebrities don't need to be the C-suite, right? Of course, there should be
Definitely.
representation there, but, the celebrities can be of all level, of all diversity, and that's important to reflect that.
Because it's
And
authentic.
I think it provides trust in your employees
Yes.
too. Like if it's not mandatory, it's optional, so nobody has to do that.
Right.
But if they want to do that, it shows that you trust them to speak on behalf of your brand. And I think it creates loyalty from employees to get that trust.
Totally. And
There's a spiral effect.
yes.
So if I'm an engineer outside of the company, and I see that engineer gets such a stage, where do I want to work?
Yeah.
So this is how it all ties together. There's a whole spiral effect there with activating your company as well.
Penny, this one's for you from Jean out of Chicago. Thank you. Can you tell me more about using LinkedIn groups as advisory boards?
Yes. Well, we had executive dinners and events in each of our locations around the world. So we used groups to keep the conversation going. And it's because they've already met in person. We aren't trying to bring people into this specific group. This is a group of people who met and worked together and talked together. And so that our goal is just to keep that conversation going.
We get a lot of questions about groups, and would you say groups is an excellent tool to leverage when trying to grow your community organically?
Yeah, it's one of the tools.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, you have your page, you have your groups. We launched events 4 weeks ago.
Yep.
Local events, you can do local events outside. It was already happening at LinkedIn. We just allowed it to be, done in a better way because we want to give our members the tools to do it. So, but if you think about the community, it's actually if you kind of take a step back, what we offer are community tools.
Right.
So there's your page and your feed, notifications. You can do for our partners, which are part of our community. You can do it for groups. You can do it for events. And in many ways, you kind of want to have those rooms together. The nice thing with groups is you can go, if your followers for your page is this big, if it's big, it's awesome. But it's, in a way, like I said, it's 100,000 followers you have on LinkedIn. Your groups could be, this is my buying group, or this is my ad buying group, or this is my sales buying group, or this is kind of my engineers talent, or this is my design talent. So groups allows you to kind of break that big, living room into smaller rooms and have more meaningful conversations.
Right.
That's another way to activate your community.
That's a good
And I think
point.
joining a group is also a really important thing.
Right. One question, it's an international one, so I want to make sure we get to it. Marco in Italy asks or says, Tomer stressed the importance of real-time, authentic, one-on-one conversation, which means more resources and people dedicated to it. But how do I think about or even go about AI and chatbots in relation to engaging with these members within your community?
Yeah, so I love AI. AI is a big part of my job. And chatbots, I think, are kind of becoming a great way to engage. I would say, when we think about, I don't think there's a great tool today, and I might be wrong, but I don't think there's a great tool today that your chatbot can sound very authentic.
Yeah.
It will get there, but it will ultimately try to mimic your brand, and it's over time, and we'll see how that does it. It's a great way, for example, let's think about when we think about chatbots. It's for the easy stuff. I lost my password. Oh, great! Here's a link to use your password. You don't need hey, I'm Tomer LinkedIn here. Here's your link to your password, and I'm having you can do it for a chat. But if somebody's asking something more deeper, a little bit more sophisticated, giving that robotic answer until the AI there becomes very strong, then somebody's oh, I was expecting a more human response.
Right, you kind of lose credibility.
Yeah, so I think there's some areas when you if somebody's how do I do something very basic? Here's how you do it. Here's the video, whatever. When it's a little bit more authentic, you want to have an authentic response back that can actually mimic a real person behind it.
I think one of the misconceptions, though, is you can use chatbots to do those, repetitive tasks as long as you introduce it as a chatbot.
Right, you're
But the
upfront.
real beauty of a chatbot is that if I'm looking for something that I need a human for, I'll get to you faster. And I really think that everybody sees chatbots as sort of a negative energy, but if it's used for a productive reason to get to a human faster, to get your problem solved faster or your question answered faster.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that is a good point. So a specific tactic for a very specific objective. Some really awesome questions. Thank you for being very engaged and thinking through about what you want to learn more in terms of community. We're almost out of time, so just one more question for the both of you. If a marketer could only focus on one thing as it relates to building a community, what would that be?
So I would go back to the hierarchy of needs.
Yep.
I would start with, especially there was questions around like I need to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And there was question around how do I get take it to the next level. And I'm assuming a lot of people are asking about business outcomes. So I would go and I would just start with a hierarchy of needs and thinking about being in that marketplace. And if you're at a stage where you want to establish your presence, then focus on establishing your presence.
Yep.
Just have a great presence out there. And once you feel, you don't have to like do an A+ job to move to the next level, but you want to continuously build that muscle because that's not a check mark.
Right.
But once you feel like, okay, I'm establishing my presence, I can move on, now you can start building your community and start engaging people and share and respond back and so on. And ultimately, that engagement should translate for you to business outcome. But I would do it in that sequence, and I wouldn't drive to business outcome. You'll be disappointed.
Right.
I wouldn't drive to community with people who don't know who you are, what you stand for. But I would kind of start from the lower level, the foundation, make your way to the top, but kind of make it in sequence together.
I think we need to blog about that because I just love that framework. So watch out for a blog coming your way on that.
Or Megan.
Yeah. Penny, what do you
I think the one thing that I would advise is patience. So I think building a community is a long play. It's not something that you're going to get a lot of short-term results from. You have to set a goal. I think that's important, but I do think you have to be patient. And really, in order to build a trusted, authentic human sort of environment, it takes time. Like any good relationship, it's not just the first 20 minutes that you meet at a party, but it's the relationship over time.
You guys are kind of saying the same thing where it's, it's patience, it's a journey, but there's steps, and the steps should be taken in the right sequence. Wise words from both of you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today from Vancouver, BC, one of my favorite places on earth, and Tomer from a few floors up, also 222 SF offices, one of my favorite places on earth too. Thank you for the viewers for your participation in all the questions, and I hope that you guys gained a lot of knowledge on how to grow your own community. Until next time, have a lovely Tuesday.
Thank you.
Cheers.